When organizations are faking it, the candidate can absolutely see straight through it. They're
Sniff it out.
already reading the culture at every touch point, every interaction. They're already making a decision or a judgment call on, is this the place for me?
I'm Dr. Joey, back with the Work Positive podcast, coaching you to grow people and profits. As a people leader, do you have any idea how much chronic stress affects the bottom line of your company? And how it connects directly to your positive culture and retention results? Hey, don't feel bad if you said no. Most people leaders in their companies, well, they fail to understand the direct connect between performance and health and what it actually takes to create teams that are both energized and engaged and who endure. My guest on this episode is here to help you understand that linkage and to leverage it into higher performing teams and company. She's a clinical pharmacist, speaker, and founder of Innovative Wellness. With over 20 years in healthcare, she now partners with corporations to optimize talent engagement, retention, and productivity by delivering science-backed consulting and energizing keynotes that embed executive well-being into the very culture of work. She's been featured on national TV, radio, and podcast, and her impact has earned her numerous honors. She brings both clinical authority and cultural insight to today's most urgent work, culture wellness conversations. Ready to grow people and profits? I'm hoping she brought some ribs since she's from Memphis. Welcome to this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. Work Positive community, I am so excited to introduce you to my new best friend, Dr. Jamie Hardy. Dr. Jamie, welcome to the Work Positive Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and to share with your audience.
Oh man, it is best day ever. Best day ever having you on. I absolutely love it. I discovered in the intro, I said maybe you'd bring some ribs. Work Positive community, she did not bring any ribs, but she comes from a family of great ribs cookers. So after the podcast, Dr. Jamie is having the Work Positive community over to her place, and her dad and brothers are going to cook for us. So,
Yes,
and can we get some good music in the backyard?
absolutely.
Oh, nice.
Absolutely. A little BB King. I think I could curate a nice vibe, a nice experience to go
Man,
with the barbecue.
I listen to jazz every day of my life. So now you're just talking my language. Food and jazz. Life is good. Life is so good. So I always like to ask my guest about their origin story. You're
Mhm.
obviously a superhero. You're certainly my superhero, Dr. Jamie, and you have an amazing litany of superpowers we're going to discover today. How did you get started in this superhero journey of yours?
Yeah. So, like all of us, there is a story.
Absolutely.
And so, I'm a pharmacist by training. I'm also
Mhm.
an executive well-being consultant and speaker, and I'm best known as the lifestyle pharmacist. And the thing about me is that whenever I sit down with anyone and talk about well-being in corporate spaces, especially, I don't gatekeep and I don't hold back. I like to keep it real and keep it honest.
Absolutely.
And
Bring
so I'm going to take you back to how it all got started.
it.
And this was several years ago, earlier in my career. And on the outside, I had all the symbols of being successful. I was
Mm,
the picture of success, or at
there you
least I
go.
looked like I was. You know, the degrees, the certifications, the title, the experience, all the
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
And then an ordinary Tuesday at work was interrupted by me being in my office just a few feet away from my team that I was leading. And I was sitting at my desk feeling as if I was having a heart attack
Oh,
at work.
oh goodness. And you were a young woman.
Yes. So just imagine the embarrassment I felt. This goes on the list of one of my most embarrassing professional moments.
Wait a minute, you're having a heart attack, you're dying, and you're
And I'm
embarrassed?
I'm just mortified that my team is seeing me being escorted out of the department, not by myself, but with my director, with our director, because I was unwell and I was personally escorted out of the department to the emergency room. So talk about taking the walk of shame. That was a very shameful walk, and they're looking like, what is happening? She's being escorted out. What is going
Were
on?
you on a stretcher or what?
No, I was not. She was walking with me and kind of had me by the arm. So I was up, I was walking, but I did not look well, I'm sure, to them.
And you were worried about
Um,
being embarrassed and you could have been dying.
it's the look of it all, the title, the
Exactly.
status. She has it all together as
Yeah,
a leader, that
I got it.
perfectionism that
I
sometimes
got it.
can creep up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, fortunately, my heart was fine. I was not having a heart attack, right?
Okay.
But that situation caused me to learn some very important things.
Mm.
I was so focused on the job and the output and the productivity and how I was
Yeah.
being perceived and how I was showing
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
I wasn't taking care of the person who was helping to lead the strategy,
Mm.
myself. I
Yeah.
was not leading myself well in
Mm.
that point in my career. And
Mm.
so it shook me to my core and it forced me to level up how I was leading myself. And I
Good.
had to change some things.
Good.
So I had to make sure I prioritized how I was fueling my brain and my body, even on my busiest days, even when the calendar was stacked. They had to be a priority. I
Mm.
had to find a way to invent a system to reset my nervous system in real time.
Oh, thank you.
And I
Mm-hmm.
had to also lean into this concept that strategic rest is important. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
weakness, it's actually
Mm-hmm.
a performance multiplier.
Mm.
So those are the things that I had to change
Mm.
about myself. And that
Mm-hmm.
ordeal also showed me something else. I wasn't the only one. Maybe people hadn't landed in
What?
the emergency room,
Yeah.
but it revealed it's like the curtain, the veil had been lifted. I was not the only one that had experienced physiological changes and mental
Mm-hmm.
changes because the work was all consuming
Mm.
and I was not leading myself. And
Mm.
so that put me on this path to start doing the work that I do with corporations to help them integrate well-being strategies and solutions into their leadership culture so that their top talent isn't doing what quietly dimming or walking right on out the door. So that is what put me on this path and caused me to create the programs and the services that I do.
I love it. I love it. Dr. Jamie, when it gets personal,
Yeah.
we're at a place of authenticity and we can really speak into what creates a positive work culture
Yeah.
rooted in wellness, right? Now, you said so many things there. I want to tag into some of them. First of all, let's distinguish between rest and sleep because
Mm.
so often, okay, we get to a point where we might be sleeping well, but we wake up as tired as we went to bed. So
Yes.
we at that point need rest. Speak to, you called it strategic rest, and I'm intrigued by that.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. So strategic rest is time and space where you are allowed to give your brain and your body intentional time to decompress, to reset, to heal, to recuperate,
Hmm.
and power your brain down. One of the things that I have learned in the work that I do is that high performing, high achieving executives and leaders,
Hmm.
they are brilliant. And those brains, unfortunately, don't clock out. The body is in the bed, but the
uh,
brain is still replaying
uh,
things that happened,
guilty
thinking
as
about
charged.
what's on the
Yeah.
agenda for tomorrow, thinking
Yeah.
about the call with the executive team. The brain is
Hmm.
still going.
Hmm.
So the solution to that is implementing a protocol in your life where you can draw the line where work ends and your personal time and your life begins. So, having a ritual or a routine that allows you to make that transition and having some boundaries and things in place, even with your team, so that you can rest.
There's the B word, boundaries. While I'm
Yes.
laughing, man, I hear that from so many of my clients, and I'm sitting there thinking, "Oh, do you hear yourself?" Because when you're always on, and that's the phrase
Mhm.
that I hear so often, I have
Yep.
to be always on. Man, that just zaps all of your energy. How well do you lead then? Now, let's take it because one of your brilliances is that you can take the wellness and tag it to profitability in a company.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about leadership capacity and how when you're
Mm.
not resting or even sleeping or caring for yourself in the kinds of ways that we're talking about here, what does that do to the bottom line?
It definitely has a negative impact on the bottom line.
Hmm,
We spend a lot of time in organizations looking at the KPIs.
right.
Well, there are some human KPIs that need
Hmm.
attention as well. And when we
Hmm.
have these conversations about performance and sustainability and profitability, there needs to also be some attention paid to the human characteristics and the human qualities that drive those metrics as well.
Yes.
And that is the gap that I often uncover when I'm working with organizations where the two are perceived as being separate and apart. And the leadership capacity, the executive presence that your leaders have,
Hmm.
all of that flows down. Like some of the unintended consequences that we see in these organizations can be
Hmm.
correlated to the well-being of the people at the helm.
Or the
What
lack of well-being.
or the lack of well-being,
Hmm.
absolutely. Leaders cast a shadow. So when people in organizations see their leader not prioritizing rest, wearing their earned hours of paid time off that they don't use as a badge of honor,
Never you.
always being on, praising those that arrive early and leave late when and the leader is, not bringing their very best self
Hmm.
to the team. That is not only observed, it's felt, but it's also modeled. And
Yeah,
it can become contagious and
it can.
absolutely permeate every facet of the organization.
Mm.
So the well being is integral to the profitability, the sustainability, the attractiveness of the organization as a whole.
Hmm. And it affects retention as well, because if it is a culture that values all the negative KPIs that you were just talking about,
Yep.
denies the human dynamic of what it's like to work in this culture, retention, the revolving door is spinning like a top, and there's no stopping it at all, is there?
No, no, absolutely not. Because why would your middle managers or people that are in the leadership development pipeline, why would they then aspire to get to that next level if they see their leader
Hmm. Crash
a
and burn.
complete, I don't want to say disaster, but they're not operating at their best. They're not making great decisions. The mood is all over the place. They're not creative. They're not bringing the best to the team, nor are they even positioned to receive and pull the best even out of their team. Why
Right.
would anyone want to sign up for that?
That's it. That's it. I'll call it a disaster. In fact, I'll go further and just call it a dumpster fire because we both seen it too many times in the C-suite. You want to know why you're spending 10x a person's
Yes,
annual salary to try to go find somebody else and get them trained up? It's
yes,
because you're denying the human capacity for work here
yes.
and just missing the human beings. I mean, the often quoted SHRM statistic is 57% of all people leave a job. Why? Because of a bad manager.
Of a bad manager.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
when we
Absolutely.
forget that we're human beings and start treating each other as human doings, then our KPIs from a financial standpoint are in the crapper. I mean, it's that
Right.
fire right there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And when you invest in those senior leaders, it's not about that one person. It's bigger than that
Oh,
because the leader affects the team.
yeah.
It affects all the other departments and members downstream from that one person.
Yeah, it really
It's
does.
all connected. It's all
It's
connected. So, like you said, there's no wonder that we can't hold on to these people after we spend all this effort attracting them and with the marketing campaigns and all the recruitment efforts and putting
Mhm.
the packages together, we get them onboarded and then they don't stay. And then people are sitting there scratching their heads.
That's right. When total rewards just means gift cards, then
Yes,
mission control, we have a problem, right?
we have a problem.
But when total rewards are like, hey, my mom died, I need to take some time off, or my wife's having a baby, I need paternity time. When we can
Yes,
begin to think about the human journey,
yes,
or not begin to think about, when we can make that integral to our culture, then it's a work positive culture. And Gen Z has no patience whatsoever, no toleration for
they are not
anything
tolerating it
less.
at all.
And I celebrate that. Good for them because they're
Yes,
learning from the mistakes of my generation, the boomers, because they see us with the highest divorce rate of any previous generation, the highest addiction rate, chronic
yes,
alcoholism and drug abuse. I mean,
yes.
it's just again, a dumpster fire. So let's say we are constructing these culture KPIs around
Yeah.
well-being. Okay. How do I, in attracting talent, top talent,
Mm.
how do I communicate to this work positive culture we're talking about to them in such a way that they believe it, they see it, they want it, and claim it
Yes,
rather than giving you the side eye and saying, "Yeah,
yes,
heard that before."
yes. It has to be real. It can't just be a bullet point or a talking point
Okay.
in the recruitment strategy. Because here's the thing, when organizations are faking it, the candidate can absolutely see straight through it. They're
Sniff it
already
out.
reading the culture at every touch point, every interaction. They're already making a decision or a judgment call on, is this the place for me? You can't be saying that we value our people here when they engage with people from your team, whether it's verbally or non-verbally, and they are just frazzled. They're feeling like they look like they're being pulled in a thousand directions at once. And, the way that they are just going and always on. Those things show up even if no one says a word. And prospects pick up on that immediately. Even when people are
Mhm.
trying to put on a good face in the meeting or in the Zoom,
Yeah.
the depletion is going to seep through, it's going to come to the surface. And on the contrary, so does a genuine well-being culture that rises to the surface and bubbles up too.
Mhm.
So, when you actually are doing the thing, it is evident in the way that your people talk, in the comments that they make, in the reputation that the organization even has outside of the front doors of the building.
Mhm.
We're in a digitally connected world, and people can call BS when they know that what you're posting on your company page and what's really happening in your organization are not in alignment. So
Yeah.
the
Good
culture
point.
is how people feel,
Mm.
that they're proud of where they work, that they are trusted, that they can have a life outside of what they do in a performative way, that they get to be the full, whole version of themselves and bring that into the building every single day.
I love it. Yeah, we forget that top talent are also top evaluators. And
Yes.
that's part of what makes them top talent is their
Yes.
ability to read a room and read the energy and read
Yes.
the under what's underlying. Let me ask you a question. What if the key to growing your work culture hides in plain sight? Take the free Work Positive Culture Assessment to discover it. Get insights in less than 4 minutes that transform your culture so you grow people and profits. You just answer 13 simple questions and discover your culture stage, strengths, and personalized next steps. Get your free aha culture moment at workpositive.today. Go to workpositive.today right now. Dr. Jamie
Yes.
Hardy is my guest on this episode of the Work Positive podcast. Down in the show notes, we've got her URL to her LinkedIn profile. So that's a great way to reach out to her and communicate with her when you want to talk about your work culture and how you can help bring wellness and well-being into that even more. So I've attracted the top talent. Give me some keys to the kingdom of retention because now they're on my team and I want to
Yeah.
keep them. Sometimes there's a disconnect. We sell the sizzle instead of the steak, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah. So keeping these amazing, brilliant folks once you attract them is about how you live out the well-being in the culture, how you connect the dots, how you offer tangible well-being experiences and components that are not just something that lives in the wellness brochure or saying you have access to EAP here. You know, we talked about some of the things even in our earlier conversation off camera. These are real whole people that have lives, they have
Yeah,
families, they have
100%.
communities. So, you know, when things are going on with them, there's a support network to wrap their arms around
Mhm.
them. They can, you know, be honest with their leader and with their peers about things that are happening. There's this concept of psychological safety in the workplace where they're not going to be judged or penalized for being
Mhm.
honest and being their, you know, their real self. So one of the ways I've seen some organizations do this that I've helped to work with is implementing something as simple as like a well-being moment at the top of every meeting,
Mm.
and you know, having those moments to share maybe a stat or a wellness fact, or you know, the leader sharing some things that they learned in a recent leadership roundtable that my team facilitated just for the execs. But they brought some of those principles back to the team and said, hey, I've been doing this. I know we've been talking about strategic rest. This is a new concept here. But let me tell you how I'm implementing that. And then even like doing some shout outs or kudos for people on the team that are not related to their work product, but you know, shifts that they have made, you know, in their lives. You know, that's just one example, you know, but trinkets and t-shirts and brochures, you know, and the wellness package perks that are on the website, t-shirts that are going to get put on a shelf or a tote bag that's not going to be used. Like that is not doing
Mhm.
wellness. That is not
Mhm.
incorporating well-being into your culture. That is more performative.
Yeah, a good friend of mine, at least he's become a good friend over the years. I've had him on this podcast a couple times, Chuck Cooper. Loves to tell the story about a small business owner who decided they'd had a good year and going to give everybody some money, you know, give them a raise and things like that. So he did. And of course, everybody, I guess, needs or wants, desires more money. However, he got absolutely no response to the checks that he wrote or the additional money he put in people's checks. Nobody said thank you, kiss my foot, nothing. So
Mm,
he just started asking the question, okay, what did you really want if you didn't want money? Because you didn't say thanks for that. And he found out time off was more valued than money. He found out that a flex schedule so that I could pick up, I'm a single mom, so I can go pick up my
yep.
daughter once a week after school. You know,
Yep.
those more, shall we say, human dynamics were
Yes.
accented much more and therefore more important towards the retention efforts. So,
Yeah.
wow, I love what you're talking
Absolutely.
about there. What are some of the challenges, Dr. Jamie, that keep us from creating this kind of well-being culture?
Oh, let's see. The one that I will mention for the sake of our conversation is that
Yeah.
it's something new for some organizations. It doesn't feel familiar for some organizations how to actually operationalize that, you know,
Mhm.
hearing some of the terms and not really knowing what that looks like. How do I actually bring this into the day to day? So it can
Yeah.
be intimidating. It can
Okay.
also be something that, you know, some people unfortunately don't really believe that it's that much of a needle mover in
Yeah.
their bottom line, in their
Yeah.
productivity.
Yeah.
Some people are still not as attuned to this as you and I are, and probably a lot of people in your audience are like nodding their heads as we're talking through this. You know, there are still some people where these concepts are not something that they're wrapping their arms around and really embracing. And
Mm,
they're just continuing to, you know, stay on the team. Let's motivate them. Let's
that's
inspire
right.
them, you
That's
know,
right.
but how are we making them feel?
Mm,
You know,
mm,
what is the real culture communicating to them, not just
right.
the words that are maybe coming out of someone's mouth.
Uh-huh.
What is really happening in these organizations? And so
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I created the tool that I did, the
Uh-huh.
Leadership Retention Index, because it is a way for CEOs, CHROs, even people officers to really get a pulse of what the sentiment is in your organizations,
Mm,
not waiting for the annual, survey that a lot of organizations do. They
yeah,
check in and
right.
engage with, the team once a year and then kind of call that done.
And
But these
then do nothing with the
retention
results.
Okay. And the retention is bubbling up and it's
Mm,
building the issue, the kind of the dumpster fire is building, it's growing, it's catching. And just looking at this survey data once a year is not enough. So this
mm,
index will allow them to immediately, see the patterns that are contributing to some depletion in their organization that may be recent. It could have been
mhm,
going on for months or even years, but it
mhm.
allows them to really get an accurate sentiment, a pulse check sooner than this annual survey. And so
Yeah.
that's one of the ways that organizations can really find out what's really happening with their team. And so
Yeah.
that's what that leadership retention index seeks to do. And it's totally free. Anyone can download it and put it into practice.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, because the gaps that I see between what people leaders think they're doing and how the people receive it, that gap's usually about a 70% gap
Yes. Yes.
between the two. So in the show notes, leadershipretentionindex.com
Yes.
is there. If you're walking the dog, Dr. Jamie and I both love our dogs. So we're going
Yes,
to talk
we
about
do.
loving our dogs. Maggie Mae's upstairs, and your two are somewhere where they won't enter the conversation.
Yes, because they are chatty. Yes.
Well, they love their mama and want to talk to her. So that link, leadershipretentionindex.com, is when you get back from walking the dog, just go click that in the show notes and you'll go there. And did I hear you say for the Work Positive community, that's absolutely free, right? We get
Absolutely. It's a free
that.
download and it won't add a lot of time to their day. You can complete it in as few as 5 minutes.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we want quick and easy, right?
Yes.
Hot and now, as I like to refer to it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so we also have drjamiehardy.com there. You've done a lot of work around well-being with individuals. So
Yes.
if you are an individual and you're thinking to yourself, my company will never go for this, and you want some of Dr. Jamie's help, you can go to drjamiehardy.com. And what will we find there, Dr. Jamie?
So on the website, you'll see even more about who I am and how I,
Okay.
got started doing this work. You'll
Mhm.
see a blog that I moderate each month with actionable, tools and strategies designed
Mhm.
with executive performance and executive leadership in mind, tangible, takeaways.
Mhm.
Um, so the blog is there, and there's even a page that goes through some of the ways that individuals can work with me and how organizations can work with me. And I will say that I have been slowly making the transition away from like one-on-one executive level activities because what I've learned in doing this work with individuals, they have said, "Oh my gosh, my colleague needs this, my
Yeah.
leader needs this,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
director needs this." And so
Yeah.
having the, I guess, successes and some of those data points and success stories from my individual clients and hearing that feedback is what also led me down this path to bring it into organizations. So instead of just
Mhm.
helping Joe or, Susie individually or in a small group of about 5 people, how can I galvanize that effort and that impact and help it to spread and really integrate those cultures? And that
Mhm.
is by coming in and working with leadership teams inside the org.
Creates a lot faster ripple effect,
Yes,
doesn't it? It really
yes,
does. Work
yes.
positive community always wants to know from my guests, so Dr. Jamie, I got to ask you, what's one thing, I refer to it as a dot, do one thing. What's one thing the work positive community can do starting today to create the kind of well-being culture we're talking about?
Yeah, so we talked about a lot of things. So how can I narrow it down to just one? The one thing I would tell the Work Positive Nation to do today is you don't have to overhaul or gut the whole system and start from scratch. Like
Mhm.
culture building takes time, it's a process. It's not going to
Mhm.
happen overnight if you're really trying to effect change that's lasting and
Mhm.
sustainable, not just checking that box, right? So
Yes.
the one thing would be find one place, just one place inside your organization where well-being is invisible and just make it visible. One place. So it could be in the morning huddle, the team huddle. It could be in the monthly team meeting. It could be something that you take to the quarterly business meeting with all the senior executives. But just pick one place, one space where well-being is practically non-existent. It's not talked about at all.
Mm.
And you can start that conversation. And you can start it with even just sharing maybe something that you picked up listening to us today that you can do in your life as a leader, and then start modeling that. People love to hear you say, try this because I tried it. Not do as I say, but do as I do. So you can be the one to even initiate some of these conversations and processes and forward momentum in your organization. So just pick one place where well-being is invisible and you be the one to make it visible.
I love it. Absolutely love it. It all starts with one conversation
Just one.
and a
Yeah.
person who's courageous enough to initiate it. I
Yes.
love it. And the work positive community is full of courageous people who act in the face
Yeah.
of adversity. So,
Yeah.
Dr. Jamie Hardy's been my guest on this episode. Dr. Jamie, I'm certainly better for this conversation. Work positive community, go to leadershipretentionindex.com. That URL's in the show notes. Avail yourself of that free, that's right. I know
Yes.
it's hard to believe, but the free Leadership Retention Index and begin having these conversations today. Dr. Jamie, thank you so much for your generosity and time today.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Joey. It was my absolute pleasure.
I'm so grateful you joined our conversation about creating positive work cultures that grow people and profits. Connect with me directly on LinkedIn today. Just search for Dr. Joey Fawcett, or you can click the link in your show notes. When you send your connection request, mention you're a Work Positive Podcast listener, because I want to give you a free digital copy of my Work Positive Team Edition book. It's a $19.95 value, but I want to share it with you free because it contains practical strategies that I personally use with clients to transform toxic work environments into thriving cultures. We explore in that book how to create a positive work culture, and we do so again in every episode of this podcast. Our LinkedIn connection allows you and me to directly talk about your specific challenges, so feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn. I personally read and respond to all those messages because I genuinely care about your work positive success. So go to LinkedIn and let's connect. Remember to mention you're a podcast listener to receive your free Work Positive Team Edition book. I look forward to seeing you on our next episode of the Work Positive Podcast.